Hello everyone. Got another Prager University video here. This one's about Calvin Coolidge. The quote, the best president you don't know. Yeah, right. Let's see what Amy Shea over here has to say.
Do more. That's what Americans demand of their presidents these days. A real president, Democrat or Republican, knows how to use the office. A real president makes things happen, or so the conventional wisdom. But actually, there is another model. A president can succeed through inaction by doing as little as possible. One such president was Calvin Coolidge. From the time he took office in 1923 to the time he left in 1929, Coolidge served a philosophy that was simple and powerful. Don't do. Coolidge was our great refrainer.
Yes, his inaction led to the Great Depression. In fact, I would argue that the Great Depression was a combination of three Republican presidents, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover. But it was the inaction, especially on the part of Coolidge, to enact reasonable economic measures that led to the crash. But let's continue, though. This is PragerU after all.
The leadership style matched his personal style. Coolidge did not waste words, hence his nickname, Silent Cow. He did not grandstand. For these quiet ways, the 30th president absorbed much abuse. A Washington socialite, Alice Longworth, said that Coolidge looked like he had been weaned on a pickle. Coolidge cut a sharp contrast to Alice's father, Theodore Roosevelt, who had served a decade and a half earlier. And what a contrast Coolidge provided with another Roosevelt, Franklin, who came just a few years later. The refrainer is worth getting to know because he got the kind of results men of action long for today, especially economic results. Low unemployment, often well below 5%, low taxes, higher wages, fewer strikes, new technology for the masses, a new car or a phone or radio.
Some of the stuff she says here is quite misleading. The economic boom that is now known as the Roaring Twenties occurred mainly due to World War One. The United States, after winning World War One, became the chief financier of the world, or essentially the world's banker. The world's banking capital moved from London to New York, and a lot of the European nations like Germany, France, the UK ended up owing huge debts to the United States. So as a result, there was a massive economic boom that occurred in this country. It wasn't because of Coolidge, it wasn't because of Harding or even Hoover. It was just purely due to circumstance.
And most remarkable of all, a shrinking federal budget. If you remember just one fact about Coolidge's presidency, let it be this. Coolidge left the federal budget lower than he had found it.
That's not always a good thing. Nor is it, at times, actually, there isn't really anything good about shrinking the federal budget. What that means is the government provides less and less services to the people, and that's not good. I don't know why she's peddling this notion as if it's something good. I mean, I suppose it sounds good in theory, but in practice, it's a disaster.
How did Coolidge do it? First, he resisted taking unnecessary action himself. Second, he imposed the same discipline on Congress. That wasn't easy. In the early 1920s, the progressive movement, whose impulse was, then as now, always to do something, was on the march. Progressive plans included more aid for agriculture, encouraging unions, increasing taxes, and nationalizing important industries, such as railroads and utilities.
Oh, yep, all those things are bad things. There's nothing good that can come out of taxing wealthy people their fair share, nationalizing utilities. There's nothing good that could come of that, because, I mean, heck, who uses a railroad after all in 1920, right? The PragerU is just unbelievably stupid. Um, Coolidge passed 3 tax cuts to the wealthiest of Americans, and we're talking major tax cuts that most economists conclude led to the Great Depression, because government spending also plays a role in any economy, in any nation's economy. So when you reduce government spending and at the same time operate on this flawed notion that, if we cut taxes for rich people, that'll translate to jobs. Well, guess what? Rich people are under no obligation to create a job. I mean, it's just not practical, and it's typical of the right wing.
Coolidge blocked the progressives and thereby blocked their expansion of government. He vetoed farm subsidies twice, even though he personally came from an area of poor farmers, rural Vermont. Coolidge was sympathetic to farmers, but helping them wasn't the government's function.
Yeah, I mean, who cares about struggling farmers, who are victims of circumstances that were outside of their own control? But the minute a business goes bankrupt, the Republicans will come to their rescue, even though that the business went bankrupt because of the business's own misconduct. They'll still come to the rescue. But if you're a victim of a natural disaster, you're on your own.
Coolidge also vetoed aggressive versions of the great entitlement proposal of his day, an entitlement that would have expanded the budget by billions. Pensions for veterans, and he blocked.
Yeah, he vetoed pensions for World War I veterans, for veterans and the widows of people that fought in the American Civil War. I mean, this guy is a disgusting person. It just shows you his character, that he would totally just disrespect people who fought to, number one, end slavery in this country, and number two, keep this country united. He just utterly just spits in their face and tells them, "Yeah, I'm not giving you a pension. You're on your own. Screw you." But if they were billionaires, oh man, he'd be riding to their rescue.
The rise of militant labor unions wherever and whenever he could.
Yeah, I mean, who cares about an 8-hour work day? We don't need that. Benefits, who cares? I don't want that. Health care, oh, screw that. You don't need health care. Safe working conditions. I mean, this guy's unbelievable. Let's continue.
A habit he had begun while still governor of Massachusetts. Coolidge made especially good use of the pocket veto, the ability of the president to veto a bill by simply not returning it to Congress. It is much more important to kill bad bills, he said, than to pass good ones. In total, Coolidge vetoed 50 times. The legislation.
One of those bills was a bill to help flood victims. At the time, the Mississippi River flooded, and it was the worst flood in American history at that time, prior to Katrina. And he vetoed help for those victims. But like I said earlier, had they been billionaires, I think he would have done the opposite.
Coolidge did endorse was designed to meet the same minimalist end, restrain the government. Together with his Treasury Secretary, Andrew Mellon, Coolidge lowered the top tax rate to 25%. Their goal was to shrink the public sector so that the private sector could expand, and the policy worked.
No, it didn't. The reason why there was economic expansion in this country, like I said earlier, was due to World War I. It wasn't due to his tax cuts. It just made sure that wealthy people had more money. But I'm done watching this video. This video is just too stupid. I'm signing off. Thank you.